Hello, everyone. Welcome. So glad that you're here today. I'm Valora Washington, CEO of the CAYL Institute, that is Community Advocates for Young Learners. And we thank you for being part of our webinar series today and being part of the entire 2025 CAYL webinar series. We have had a dynamic year of service to you, the early childhood education community. We've had record attendance and engagement this year as we've addressed our theme, the way forward. When we chose the way forward as our 2025 theme, of course, we had no idea of what a historic and remarkable year 2025 would be. What was different this year is that we at CAYL felt a greater sense of your need for community, for information, and for encouragement. So we took on tough topics like immigrant children, technology, Head Start, and equity. We read your messages, we heard your stories in our post-webinar after party, and every month we sent you resources so that you could dig deeper into the topics we were talking about. So we thank you for being part of the CAYL Catalyst community. And as we plan for the year ahead, we greatly appreciate your input once again by clicking on the QR codes you see on your screen. We want to hear your voice. We want to know what future topics interest you, what advice you want to give the CAYL Institute as we move forward, and how can we be in partnership with you. As thousands of you have joined the CAYL Catalyst webinar series this year, focused on the way forward, we hope that you were informed, inspired, strengthened, and encouraged. We hope you will become even more empowered to take responsibility for your part in our collective journey. We know that for many of us, 2025 has been a very challenging year with funding disruptions and concerns about Head Start, food insecurity, immigration concerns. So here's a thought worth remembering from a Roman philosopher. You have power over your mind, not over outside events. If you realize this, you will find strength. This quote encapsulates the essence of personal empowerment and self mastery. It reminds us that we can't control all the things that happen around us, but we do hold the reins over our own thoughts. And because of this, we can tap into our inner resilience that can carry us through many challenges and many trials. Yes, the world is very uncertain and unpredictable right now, but there's a beacon of light that is within each and every one of us. And when we share our collective light, we're empowered to navigate the ebbs and flows of what is happening all around us. What I see by your light is that as educators, each and every one of you is an everyday hero. A hero is just an ordinary person who finds the strength to persevere and endure in spite of all of the obstacles. And that ordinary hero is absolutely you. So I remind you once again of what Edward Hale once said. I can't do everything, but I will do the thing that I can do. And each of us can take our own small steps, our own efforts to contribute to meaningful progress for children, for families, and for our profession. And today, we're going to share with you a panel of people who are absolutely doing what they can do for the field in spite of external events. Even in the midst of all of our challenges, they have worked with great success to do something they could do, and that is to advance and expand the childcare workforce. Today's panel is composed of everyday heroes who have opened the doors of opportunity and advancement for very many of our colleagues. So as we prepare to hear their inspiring stories, will you join us today by sharing your questions and thoughts in the chat? And we really want to know, what are your thoughts on childcare staffing issues? And while you're writing, I'm going to share a few announcements. First, plan to join us. Typically, we offer these webinars on the first Thursday of every month at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, as you know, but due to the holidays, we do not have webinars in January. So all of our webinars are free, recorded, available on our website and our YouTube channel. Plan to join us in February. Second, you're invited to the after party. At the end of the webinar, we invite you to click a link that's going to be in the chat to join a live Q&A if you want to interact with our guest speakers. And third, look for an email from us next week. We're going to have this webinar recording and resources to help you dig deeper into this issue. We invite you to stay connected with the CAYL Institute through our website, our social media platforms, and watching our YouTube channel. And in this season of giving, we also invite you to make a donation to the CAYL Institute to support this webinar series. Your gift really matters, and it is greatly appreciated. So now let's think about our day's topic, and that is how we can really expand and advance the childcare workforce. Workforce issues are clearly on all of our minds. Governments recognize the impact of staffing shortages on childcare as a significant detriment to local and state economies. And among the vast array of solutions, there's two distinctive patterns that we've noticed. The first is because of the impact on the broader society. In the economic and workforce space, childcare employment is often viewed as a wraparound service that helps other people get to work. And second, we notice that childcare employers, especially small employers individually, are spending a lot of time searching for new staff. For smaller programs in particular, this role falls on directors who struggle to find time in their day-to-day schedule to review the resumes, interview, onboard, all while overseeing the day-to-day operations of their programs. And still, the child care workforce challenge is persisting. Today, we're going to talk about a successful effort to tackle this challenge, an initiative called the Good Jobs Challenge that took place in metropolitan Boston between 2022 and 2025. This initiative aimed to shift the paradigm about how we think about recruiting, training, upskilling, and employing childcare staff or opening new family childcare homes. So to meet the Good Jobs Challenge, which is a federal initiative, we realized that we had to shift the paradigm about how we think about childcare staff and childcare recruitment. Shifting the paradigm, we wanted to say, what if we didn't think about childcare as a wraparound service for other people? And what if we really focused on the educator herself or himself? We really focused on the inherent value of the educator and think about what they really needed within themselves. And what if we got together a cross-sectoral partnership to catalyze efforts to collaborate very intentionally to recruit, train, upskill, and employ staff? So we set aside a vision that we were going to do two things as part of the Good Jobs Challenge. And by the way, Metro Boston was the only Good Jobs Challenge in the nation that was focused on childcare. The rest dealt with other industries. Our vision was that we wanted to leverage the Good Jobs Challenge as a proof of concept. We wanted to prove that cross-sectoral partnerships that center early childhood educators can generate increased workforce supply and diversity. And the way we wanted to achieve this vision was by doing two things. We were going to establish a cross-sectoral collaborative structure, bringing together educators, employers, community-based organizations, as well as workforce boards to think together about the best practices for workforce development in our field. So developing this cross-sectoral collaborative structure was a huge goal that we set out to do. The second thing that we promised the federal government and the city of Boston that we would do is that we would get results, that we would recruit, train, upskill, and have employed 850 people in good jobs in early childhood centers and family childcare homes in the metropolitan Boston area. Stay tuned over the next few weeks. We're going to be releasing 3 reports about what we did and how we did it. but I'm going to jump right now to the outcomes that we actually achieved. We exceeded the Good Jobs Challenge of 850 jobs. And as a matter of fact, we had recruited, trained, upskilled, and had employed 1,030 people. And we did this by expanding the workforce and advancing the workforce in center-based settings as well as in family childcare settings. We had four outcomes. We wanted to recruit new teachers, people new to the field to become assistant teachers and teachers. We wanted to recruit new family childcare homes. We wanted to take current teachers and help them advance in the profession. And we wanted to help people who were existing family childcare homes to strengthen their skills and their capacity. And we were very successful in doing this, as you can see in this outcomes chart. And we really encourage you to read our reports and learn more about what we did and how we did it. But today, we're going to be honored to present to you several of the brilliant on the ground leaders who made this results happen. We're going to hear their stories about what they did. And I ask you to listen for the lessons that they learned, but also to think about how you and your community might implement some of these strategies that they use to create such enormous success. I also encourage you to listen for examples of the powerful collaborations and cross-sector strategies, which were the foundation of their success. So we have four of our everyday heroes with us today, and though they are Devin Cole, who is a Senior Director of Operations at Neighborhood Villages, Alessia Da Cruz, who's an Assistant Professor and Program Chair for Early Childhood Education at Urban College of Boston. We have Luisana Lazaro, who's the Chief of Training and Workforce Development for the Community Group, and Melissa Weber, who's Vice President at the United Way in Boston. So I want to welcome all four of you. And once again, as you know, I can't thank you enough for the impact you've had on so many people's lives, but also the economic impact that you've had in Metro Boston when you put 1,030 trained, upskilled childcare workers in the communities that you served. Let's start with you, Devin. One of the main things that we did, Devin, as you well know, is we had a hands-on approach using community-based organizations like yours to really go out there and recruit people and support people from start to finish. We call these people navigators. They are called many names, coaches, and so forth. But they were really such a secret sauce to the success of the Good Jobs Challenge. Tell us about the navigators and how that really worked in the Good Jobs Challenge.
Absolutely. Thank you, Valora. So I want to just mention that with Neighborhood Villages, our role was to support early educators to become lead teacher eligible. They took 3 college courses and we supported them through that whole process. Before we started the program, we really looked at what early educators would need to be successful in advancing through those 3 college courses. And we centered on some core facts. All of these are known to all of you. Early educators make low wages. The mean educator in Massachusetts makes about 16% below a living wage. The job is stressful. You go to work every day and you're with a whole classroom of children, and it's long hours. There's lots going on. Many early educators speak English as a second language, and many have also had challenging experiences in higher education in the past. And lastly, I have 2 little kids, so I understand this stress. Many of our early educators also have small children. All of this adds up to a very high likelihood that without support, flexibility, a clear and simple process, that these educators would stop out of a program like ours and as a result not achieve lead teacher. So right from the start, our team, which was made up of Sean Fisher, who was our director, Juliana Porto, who was our program manager, and Damaris Colon, who's our student navigator, came to the design of the program understanding these participants were humans with strengths, ambitions, and lots of needs, and that their success would be dependent on how well we supported them through it. And so because of this approach, because of the way they took this on with that human-centric focus, 211 early educators were able to get lead teacher certified. And that means raises, new opportunities, potential for a sustainable career in the field. All pretty amazing things. So a few things that we did in the design of the program before I get to that navigator question, we created a single enrollment. So this is 3 college courses, but our educators only needed to sign up once, and then we supported them through those 3 college courses. There was no signing up for individual courses or trying to determine what they needed to do next. We supported them through all of that. The courses were asynchronous, which allowed them to learn on their own time. Again, if you have little kids, you know that you may not be able to go someplace at 6 o'clock at night and take a class. You may not even be able to do a Zoom in the evening. These were also expedited 8-week classes, which meant that these educators could get lead teacher certified within about 6 months, which is pretty amazing. Damaris, who was our navigator, was really the secret to our student success.
Mhm.
The reason why is because she, and this was built into what we focused on in thinking about this role. She was easy to access. She was on WhatsApp with them. They all had her phone number. She was made a point of introducing herself right at the beginning of the course to everyone. She was navigational. She knew and understood all of the intricacies of getting through this course, understanding how to work within a college system, what the program expectations might be. She knew the individual participants, so she could identify what they might struggle with up front, and she was able to be there with them. She was proactive and reactive, which meant that she would use that knowledge to identify potential barriers and try to help each individual along. But she was also reactive. And what you'll find, again, these are humans. People get in car accidents. A family member might get sick. They may have a scheduling challenge. And so she was able, and our team was able to support people through whatever came their way, and lots of things came their way. We were attempted as much as we could to be solutions oriented, stay fully connected to the program participants and partners, and find solutions for them to help them. One great example of this is our team was able to work with Fisher College to offer tutoring to the participants, which was usually only done at Fisher for enrolled students, which these folks were not. And so that was something that we were able to build with Fisher because our participants needed it and because we understood that in depth. And then lastly, I think really critically, Damaris was a person that these folks knew. They knew Damaris and her particular personality. And Damaris was motivational. They knew they could come to her and say, I need a pick me up. And she would give them that pick me up. They knew that they could come to her and say, this is great. I love it. And it would feed her. And that would give her energy to be able to continue providing that work, providing that support to everyone. We built lots of other elements like program orientation, enrollment support, course orientation. Once somebody completed, we were able to help them understand how to continue in a college pathway if they wanted to. And we did many, many more things. But I will say that the most important insight that our team worked on was that the participants were human and they needed humans in their corner to help them work through what can be a difficult administrative and technical process getting through college courses. And we would not have been successful had we not built that in.
Yeah, I just celebrate that every day. One of the things that I really noticed about the navigators is how they were just such a strong bridge, bridging those words between people from the community and the higher education institutions, and just breaking down all the barriers for them on their behalf. And that flexibility was so important.
Yeah. Can I just, someone asked a question, who was supporting Damaris, which is an excellent,
Mm,
insightful question. I thank you for
mhm.
asking that. The team also was aware that there would be a huge burden on Damaris, that when someone had a challenge, because of the person she was, because she was the right person for this job, it's hard to just slough off that stress that somebody brings to you. And so the team itself was very tight knit and checked in very consistently. And I think we as an organization are very committed to providing our team with mental health supports and things like that. And so that was there kind of institutionally. But Juliana and Sean were right in the trenches with her, working with her and there for her when she was struggling. And they did that. I saw them work together in that way personally all the time. I think that's actually a critical question that we should all be asking ourselves. If we are providing this support to people that is holistic and is personalized, how do we support the people who are providing that support?
Mhm. Thank you so much, Devin. And that really speaks to, the philosophy that we brought to the whole Good Chums Challenge is we really wanted to focus on the inherent value of the educator and of the people supporting the educators. And I really do feel that was such a big part of success.
For sure.
Thank you so much, Devin. We're going to come back to some of these questions. But one of the things that I also learned a lot with their work in neighborhood villages is the importance of the higher education piece and navigating that piece. And I saw that neighborhood villages and many of our other community-based partners were really able to leverage the impact and the capacity of higher education to do their role and what they do best. So we're going to hear Alessia, if you will join us and talk to us a little bit about the role of higher education in making the Good Jobs Challenge childcare so successful.
Yes, thank you, Valora. So it's great to be here to show everybody and to share with you how folks like us in the higher ed sector played a role in the Good Jobs Challenge. But before I jump in, I think it's important to share a little bit about Urban College of Boston because we're such a small school. So, who we are really shapes the way we approach the Good Jobs Challenge. So, Urban College is a small community college in the heart of Boston, founded 30 years ago by ABCD Head Start. So we've been serving early educators from the very beginning. In fact, I'd say that early childhood ed is part of our DNA. So for 3 decades, we've been helping students change their lives through higher education. And although we're small physically, our reach is big because we serve students all across Massachusetts, and we've just received approval to bring our programs nationwide. And the reason why that's important and exciting means to me that the model we've built in Boston can now support educators across the country. And this background really influenced how we adapted our programs for the Good Jobs Challenge because Urban College has always been committed to access, equity, and meeting learners where they're at. One of the biggest adaptations was building these pathways that honored the realities of today's workforce. Devin already mentioned. Our particular students in general are not your traditional students. Many of our students work full time, they have families, some of them are single moms. So we really need to meet students where they're at. And by what we did was we created and expanded our evening and hybrid course modality so that we're able, as Devin said, to provide coursework to these students who normally it's difficult to leave the home. You come home from work, you've worked 40 hours a week, so we have to meet people where they're at. By providing these hybrid and asynchronous courses, students have a lot more flexibility. We also switched to 8-week courses, allowing students to take 2 classes per semester. And as Devin mentioned, that really speeds up the process so that they can get through their credentialing much faster. One of the things that I really loved about working with the partners is that our partners provided us with cohorts of students who needed to learn together. So we kept students in a cohort. We adapted our courses and supports that reflected the linguistic diversity of the field. So that meant that we offered bilingual instruction, but we also staffed our programs with faculty who understand the cultural and community context of our students. Many of our students took courses in their native language, such as Spanish or Mandarin. And I want to point out that many of our students are bilingual and may have a conversational grasp of English, but their preferred language for learning is still their native language. So being able to learn in your preferred language allowed Urban College to fill the gap where it was needed. A lot of our early childhood ed workforce is bilingual. So We also embedded academic and coaching supports. We have a great learning resource center at Urban College where you can receive tutoring both in person and online. And that was something that we allowed for all of our students, including those that came in through the CAYL partnership. And our faculty, I cannot say how great the faculty is at Urban College. Our faculty was an instrumental part of the success that our students had. They reached out weekly to our community partner liaisons to give updates on how students were progressing throughout the courses. This ensured that anyone who was struggling was not left behind, but instead received support both on our end as a higher ed institution and from our community partners. I like to joke, and I think I've said this before, that it was like the students had the CIA after them because we really cared so much about making sure they were able to complete their assignments and they were engaged with their coursework. We were always very well aware of what was happening to students behind the scenes. And so we didn't want anyone to feel that going back to school was just not worth it for them. We really provided a lot of support. And I think that we really want to retain adult learners. We don't want them to just come to school to get credentials. We want them to improve their lives and come back and get an associate's degree. And I'm glad to say that I saw a lot of that happening. We worked closely with many partners, such as the City of Boston, Neighborhood Villages, JVS, the Community Group, and many other partners to make this possible. And I think that these partnerships allowed us to align our coursework with what the employers need. We created higher ed pathways for apprentices that were kind of not sure what they wanted to do. We ensured that students earned their credentials, and this translated into real career advancement. So we could see someone that was a teacher could take courses and now become lead teacher. And you're seeing the income of that person going from $19 an hour to $26 an hour. So we need to realize that in the higher ed, spectrum, we're not just providing courses, we're providing income changes. We're taking people out of an income bracket and placing them above where they normally would be. And that to me is one of the most rewarding parts. So to me, overall, I think the Good Jobs Challenge helped Urban College lean even more deeply into what we do best, which is meeting learners where they are, honoring the diversity of our communities, fostering community partnerships, and creating flexible higher ed pathways that truly work for all working educators. And I would love to see this happen nationwide. Other than, we're here in Boston, but I know that there are people here from all over the country, even, in other parts of the world. And I would love to see the partnerships between nonprofit and, what's happening in the sector, apprenticeship programs and higher ed all working together is just it was an amazing experience.
Yeah, and thank you and all your colleagues at Urban College and the other colleges that worked with us. We worked with a number of colleges. Your role was so important in making all of this happen. You're quite aware that many people are very concerned that higher education is a fortress and that, many of the people who might enter our field can't navigate that system. And so the way that you offered so many flexible options and so many different pathways was really key to helping people persist and succeed. You mentioned another important point, which is how we worked with employers. We had over 150 employers that we were working with so that we were helping them to upskill and move people already employed as well as find new people so that we opened classrooms that were closed. We created so many more family childcare spots within metropolitan Boston. And so, I think what you demonstrated and the other colleges is how making these flexible pathways is just such a win, win, win. And it's the cross-sector partnerships that make it happen.
Absolutely, I agree.
Mhm. Thank you so much. We'll get back to the higher education question, but I think something that is really dear to the heart of a lot of people is Melinda, family childcare. Family childcare is often not included in various initiatives, and we made such a big point of wanting to be sure that family childcare was central to the whole Good Shops Challenge. And the United Way was one of our partners that really led the way with family childcare. Tell us a little bit about that.
Ooh, how much time do you have? If you know me, that's a dangerous question from Melinda Weber. First of all, thank you so much. I'm so honored to be in the presence of all of my friends, really, and partners in this work. Just very, very grateful to be here. Just want to shout out Rosemary Hernandez, who has done so much work with us, with one of our partners, Clarendon, Louisiana. You'll hear from her a little bit later. And I just, as I'm looking through the chat, Edna Cabral is here, and she's a family childcare educator and is really present so often, which makes such a big difference. But you're right. Family childcare is often excluded, most often excluded from workforce opportunities because they don't fit the traditional mold, right? There's not one employer who's bringing in charge of bringing a large number into their employ. And really, we brought 60 educators, new educators into this field. So it is a good model. It's just not the traditional model. And with family childcare, so often we have to think outside the box, right? We've been doing at United Way, we've been doing this work for about, I don't know, since 2017, 2018. And the way it started was through our shared services initiative. And the shared services initiative was really a way to look at our education systems with a business lens, right? We've been talking, as I see in the chat, for 30 years that we don't make any money and there's not enough investment. And we know that for 30 years. But what can we change, right? So what can we change? And so we had a series of tools with that business lens. And we discovered, in partnership with the city of Boston, but mostly UMass, we went into one of their courses for family childcare and discovered that the family childcare business model is so unique, and there is no training, right, on that specific model. And so when you talk about a good job, people will say, is it really a good job, Melinda, right? And so many things go into that, right? Like, what is a good job? A good job is if it's fulfilling a need for you, right? If it's getting you to where you need to be. And we're so lucky in Massachusetts that the subsidy rates have increased to a level where, a family childcare educator fully enrolled, which is the most important part, can make about $70,000 a year before taxes. So to some people, yeah, that's great. So we say, yeah, it can be a good job, but you really have to understand your business model. So I'll get back to bringing the new people into the field, but we also upskilled the educators that we brought into the field. We started all work with business training, right? And that business training model, because the city of Boston was giving out a grant to family childcare educators, and they really wanted people to understand how best to utilize that money. So they hired me to develop a series of workshops. And those workshops have been now supported throughout the state. Thousands of people have taken them. And from there, we really discovered, well, listen, there's this nice support, but there's really no support. There's fragmented support to bring new family childcare educators into the field. And so we developed a 20-week curriculum that has really equitable principles. We meet people where they are, but we also hold people accountable. And that's been one of, I think, the most important parts of our program. I really resonate when my colleagues have said that this is a lot dependent on who you have doing this work. My colleague Jana Jacques is passionate about this, and she's a magician. And so we have this program where we bring people into the field. There are many, many challenges for them. Housing is our biggest challenge, right? Many people want to do this, but they don't have appropriate housing. Background record checks. You need to have everyone over the age of 15 in your household. quarried and sorried. So that can be a problem. Things come up that you don't anticipate, don't even know about. Language access is a program. So we have our programs in Spanish and English, and technology is a huge problem. So we provide technology for our family childcare educators. Different partners on technology, but Tech Goes Home, we partnered with on many of our cohorts, and they have a curriculum built in. So we build in a curriculum in our 20 weeks. And we celebrate achievements, we celebrate accomplishments. When you said, like ordinary people with extraordinary resilience, I can't even. I have learned so much about resilience, and people who are just, that's the norm, right? That's the absolute norm, is a constant pushing against barriers. And that's the norm. And I'm amazed. I'm just amazed. So, anyway, I've lost track of time. What else can I tell you?
Well, I think a lot of people are really interested because I think basically having a comprehensive model that is really looking across the different silos of the field and bringing family childcare. And I think people will be interested to know how your family childcare educators were responding to this opportunity.
Oh my goodness, I can't even tell you. Like the first night we put this out. So they know us. I know some of my colleagues have talked about that too, and how important trust is. So we have built a network, and our educators who have gone through our programs have friends, right? And so we've built this network, and I think it's a trusted network. And so, for example, we'll put out in our newsletter the opportunity for this, and we'll literally get, for a 15-person cohort, we'll get 60 or 70 people in the first week that apply. We really, really, really have to screen for success because we still are chasing funding. And I think that's part of the problem in our field, right? We're chasing funding. So we're still chasing funding. And so we really have to screen for success. Even the Good Jobs Challenge, this is federal dollars. We are not fooling around, and we make that clear from the start. So you must have a house. You must have adequate housing. You don't have to own your house, many rent. But landlords is a real problem, right? They say you, and then at the last minute they say you can't. So we're trying to do work on landlord education. And so the response is overwhelming, and it is sometimes people get to the very end and they get sick, or a family member gets sick, or the landlord changes their mind, and they're just heartbroken. But this process, it's not the 20 weeks. 2 years later, they can come back and say, I did it. I moved, I found a new apartment, and I did it. And we're there to support them. They make those kind of relationships. We have coaches and mentors as part of our program. The Department of Early Education and Care really encouraged us early on, and we know how critical that is. Also very proud that many of our coaches and mentors get hired, right? But I see them at EEC. I see them at some of our partner organizations here, right? So kind of providing a pathway for other
For
opportunities.
being in the profession.
Exactly. So yeah, I don't know if that answers
Yeah, there's many things that you brought up. I want to just say screening. There's so much detail and complexity to the Good Jobs Challenge, but one of the main things that we talked a lot about was how we screen in for success. We're not screening out, we're screening in for success. And in the family childcare world, that gets a little bit more complicated because the educator herself or himself may not be in charge of all of the things that have to happen. Like you have to have a house that meets certain kinds of criteria. You have to have the landlord or the co-op or whatever to agree. So there's a lot of things that we try to work with people up front to get these things straightened out, to try to avoid that kind of heartbreak that can happen for factors outside of their control.
Yeah, that is really true. Like we do a lot of hand holding. We do Jana is very solutions oriented. We're very solutions oriented. How can we figure this out, right? And so we have, there's a lot going on. The city of Boston helps, municipalities have things that help. Our partners, Clarendon, I neglected to mention that in order to scale this work, in order to get, uh, all of these people through all of these programs, we partnered, and I know Louisiana is going to talk about it a little bit later, but we partnered outside of Boston with the Clarendon and the community group. We partnered with, and these are family childcare systems that are currently in place in Massachusetts. So we trained their staff to deliver these programs. So they're delivering them to people in their communities, right? Nursery did this for us as well, Community Action Inc., all of whom we have relationships with. And so they're in communities, and these are communities where access is limited. Access to these resources and supports are very limited. This is a job, or used to be a job, where you don't have to have a social. You could have an ITIN. And I saw a question in the chat about, have we seen the effects of that? And yes, not magnificently, but surely some people have just disappeared. I've also learned just, a lot about it, and what people who come to this country, may be indebted to other people for, like, so it just really gives us, a really good perspective on what people are going through. But yes, we do a lot of hand-holding for success, but it's often, we're going to have more. Maybe, come on back. We won't forget you, but come on back for the next one.
Yeah, and that's what we say. A lot of the real impact of Good Jobs Challenge, even though we have an immediate impact of 1,030 people, even now, the number is more like 1,200 people. It just keep people who've been through the
Yeah.
program. So, a lot of what makes it work and the magic sauce of what we did, and this is where we're going to ask Louisiana to come on and join us, is through the partnerships and the cross-sector partnerships. So instead of having all these isolated little things that are going on, really having to have an infrastructure, Louisiana, if you can talk with us about cross-sector collaboration, which I think is a really strong part of what the Good Jobs Challenge Childcare Metro Boston was all about. How did working across sectors with different organizations make this all successful? And what did you learn about all that?
Thank you, Valora. Hi, everyone. I'm Luisana Lizardo. I am with the community group. We are a nonprofit organization based in Lawrence, Massachusetts, and it's truly a pleasure to be here with you today. Through the Good Job Challenge grant in partnership with the CAYL Institute, we had the incredible opportunity to work across all sectors to strengthen the early childhood workforce in Massachusetts. This work gave us a chance to see firsthand how collaboration between educators, community organizations, licensing agencies, and business partners can transform the field of early education and care. And for us at the community group, we are committed to supporting educators throughout every step of their professional journey, whether they're starting out in the field, pursuing advanced credential, or even building their own family childcare businesses. And what we discovered through this work is that the real power in workforce development isn't just in training or placement. It is actually in collaboration. Mm-hmm. So working across sectors was absolutely key to the success of the Good Job Challenge for us at the community group. By collaborating with a wide range of partners, we were able to support individuals at multiple stages of their early childhood career journey. And that range of support is what make it the real difference. So we were fortunate to work with the new teacher pipeline. So through this work, we recruited, we trained, we placed, we mentor individuals that were brand new to the early education field, but we didn't just open the door for them. We actually walked with them through the door. We provided the guidance, right, the practical skills, yes, ongoing mentorship, ensuring that each participant could succeed in this new role. We also supported individuals pursuing their Child Development Associate's credential, also known as CDA. So helping them grow to take into the next step in their career, providing them guidance and resources. We help them gain their qualifications that were needed so they can advance professionally with confidence. In addition to that, my friend Melinda just mentioned the great work that she did with the family child care educators. So we partner with United Way. We work with individuals seeking to open their own licensed childcare businesses. And this wasn't just about giving advice. It was about offering a clear pathway to business ownership, showing participants how to manage, grow, and sustain a high quality childcare program. On top of that, we also work with Melinda and her team, providing business trainings to family childcare educators. So helping them develop practical skills, grow their program, build sustainable businesses that can thrive in their community. These efforts were successful because of our strong cross-sector partnership. We couldn't do it just the community do alone. It was partnership. So we strengthened our relationship with the Urban College of Boston. They provided accessible college coursework for the new educators. So this partnership made career advancement even more attainable by giving educators the opportunity to earn college credits while continuing to work in the classroom. So Urban College of Boston, Bunker Hill Community College, were like the partners that support our new teacher pipeline. In part, our partnership with the Massachusetts Department of Early Education and Care Regional Licensing Office grew in a meaningful way. We received consistent positive feedback about the quality of and readiness of the programs and participants that we supported, which validated our approach and helped us continue to improve our training program. The Massachusetts Department of Early Education and Care licensors were like part of their training. Like they used to come and meet the participants, and participants had the opportunity to talk to them and ask questions. We also expanded our strong network of employer partners. We started with like 5 partners in Lawrence, and we grew a tremendous network of employer partner. And we also work closely with family childcare systems across the region. We are a family childcare system. However, through this work, we were able to build relationships, and some of the educators that came through this pipeline went to work to other systems because they move and it just makes sense for them. So we were able to build that connection with other systems. This allows us to better align our training and workforce needs to ensure that job placements were successful, sustainable, and that meet the real demand of the childhood education field. So what did we learn from this? What we have learned is that cross-sector collaboration creates alignment. It connects people, fills gaps, and allows us to share resources and knowledge in meaningful ways. Because so many people and organizations were linked through this work, we were able to build new relationships and strengthen existing relationships. We were able to expand opportunity for educators and to grow professionally. And we were able to create pathways that benefits employers, educators, and families alike. In the end, the Good Job Challenge gave us the opportunity to see what's possible when organizations work together. And when we collaborate, we can create lasting opportunities and support educators in building meaningful careers.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And if Devin and Melinda, everybody could come back together, there's so many things we could talk about. For example, one person asked on the chat of how immigration issues have impacted us. So we don't want to spend a lot of time with that. There's a lot that could be said about that. But one of the things that we did find in the Good Jobs Challenge in the current climate is that a lot of people were not wanting to divulge demographic information about themselves. And so because of the nature of the relationships in the partnership, we may know some of that information, but if they didn't want to tell it, so it somewhat limited some of the demographic information that we can report. We do know that the majority of people who participate in the Good Jobs Challenge were women of color, many were immigrants. There's a lot of things that we know that we will not or cannot document about immigration status and so forth. And a lot of that is just because of the climate that happened at the same time this was happening. We just have a few more minutes. I want to just raise another question that you can all talk about that I think we all share in common, no matter what pathway. We had 10 different pathways in the Good Jobs Challenge. And in all of these pathways, there was a common issue, and that was technology. So I wonder if some of you can talk about technology and the impact of technology. And by the way, in the Good Jobs Challenge, we did provide wraparound supports, and you heard some of the people today talk about how they found technology supports for people, but technology turned out to be a common issue. Didn't you find that? Do you want
I
to
can
say
answer
something?
that, Valora. We definitely, most because our courses are hybrid and online, excuse me, we use a learning management system, which can be difficult to navigate. And so we really tried our best to make sure that we trained students and had orientation sessions on how to use that technology. But then even at that, some students were still having issues. And so we were able to provide support through our Learning Resource Center. So I do think that in the higher ed perspective, that's the technology that we struggled with the most, was trying to make sure that the coursework was accessible to students, but that they knew how to navigate that technology.
And Devin, we saw navigators doing all kind of things to support people with technology, including the fact that you bundled a lot of the registration for them and, even giving people hands-on support about how to deal with LMS systems and other kinds of technology things.
Yes, so that's a good thing to point out, Laura, that some of the challenge can be addressed before the course begins through good course design. That said, we also ran into many educators who were very used to using their phone as their primary technology mode and maybe didn't have a laptop. And so it's pretty important for coursework that you have the access to a laptop. So we provided loaner laptops to all of our participants. And if they needed coaching on how to use it, we would offer that. We worked very closely with our college partner, Fisher, to make sure that they understood, as Alessia said, the learning management system that they needed to use, how they could log into it, and could perform the tasks that they needed to do that were not content related to actually succeed. We also were able to work with Fisher to get information about students who hadn't logged in at certain times. If we could see that they hadn't logged into a learning management system, at a time after a period that they really should have, we knew that we needed to intervene. In some cases, that was an issue of having difficulty with technology. So we were there to, yes, that was the CIA work, Alessia, for us as well. We knew that we could tell if somebody was falling behind. There were lots of signals that they were falling behind, and that was one of the signals. If they had not logged in, we knew that we had to go to them, and sometimes that was because they were struggling to access it technologically.
Yeah, what I wanted to just say, and that there were issues of a lot of kind. One of the wonderful stories that I heard, Melinda, had to do with the family child care provider who went to get their taxes done, and the tax preparer is like, "What happened? You're so like well organized, and everything is all together." So, I think with the impact on people's lives and their work is really amazing. We're about to run out of time, and there's so many things we can talk about. I want to tell everyone just in the next few weeks, look for our 3 reports that are coming out. They're going to give you a lot of detail about the Good Jobs Challenge and how it worked. But here's the key that I want everybody to remember. Notice this cross-sector relationships, how we brought people together. And that's not easy. Just doing that part in itself is real work. But also notice that it gets results and the impact that we've made in terms of bringing new people into the field and helping people already in the field to grow within this profession. It's relationships, relationships, and more relationships that are the power behind the Good Jobs Challenge. I do want to answer one question in the chat about the age of our participants. Our participants ranged in age from 17 to 71. We had a 71-year-old educator who wanted to get certified in infant toddler and did. Okay, so with wide range, but the majority of people were in their 30s and 40s, I would say. Give me your last word, Devin. What do you have to say?
What I have to say has been said by others in different ways, but I think we often, when we think about workforce challenges, think in the aggregate. And it's very easy when you think in the aggregate about what a field needs with its workforce to forget that each of the people that you're working with is an individual with skills and strengths and needs that you will not serve as well as you want to if you don't become as engaged and build that relationship with them. Someone in here, I think it was Melinda, mentioned trust. Building trust with our participants was a magic step. You know, once we built that trust, we were able to support them in ways that we never could have if we didn't. But that all starts with recognizing that these are professionals. They know what they're doing. They are making a huge impact on children in their care, and that they are fully capable of performing the tasks that they need to do to get to whatever credentialing level. What they probably need is somebody to walk alongside them and help them in their moment of need. But these are amazing people that are there and able to do it.
Thank you. Any other last words?
I want to mention that this is not something that we should stop.
Oh,
We
no.
need to get the word out. We need lawmakers to hear that this is an effective collaboration and it shouldn't be just a one-time deal. And with those numbers coming out, Valora, I really hope we can advocate to continue working together like this.
The Good Jobs Challenge was a proof of concept, and I think that without question, we proved the concept that it does work and it gets results. And because we were the only childcare Good Jobs Challenge in the nation, we love to see other communities and states do something along this line in their own context. Any other final words?
I'm
I
going to
want to go
FC
ahead.
just for a second and just say that they are an integral part of this mixed delivery system. They are really like workforce on steroids. They multiply the workforce effects, getting families back to work, opening new businesses, getting children off to a good start, and putting money in communities. So
Mhm. I want to invite everyone who's with us today to join us in the after party. If you'd like to ask a question of any of our panelists, aren't they dynamic? It just really gives proof to this whole idea of how many everyday heroes we have in our midst and how encouraging and exciting that is to see that we are educators supporting each other and other educators, and we're all growing along this pathway. So join us at the after party to ask your own question or make your own comments. And once again, we invite you to join us in 2026 when we'll be bringing the CAYL Catalyst back to you. Again, we're so humbled that we're serving people in all 50 states and in 65 countries so far. So we really hope that we can continue to bring conversations to you that matter. Thank you so much and happy holidays, and we'll see you in 2026. Good night.